Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the navigation display of his freight ship. The year 2387 had brought many changes to space travel, but long hauls between colonies still meant endless hours of staring at star charts and hoping nothing went wrong. His ship, the Ranger's Dream, was old but reliable. Just like Jake preferred things in his life, the alarm system suddenly began beeping, cutting through the quiet hum of the engines. Jake frowned and looked at his sensors. Something was drifting in space ahead of him, something big enough to show up on his long-range scanners. He adjusted course to get a better look and felt his stomach drop when he saw what it was. A Lycan research vessel floated dead in space, its hull torn open, like someone had ripped it apart with giant claws. Jake had seen ship battles before during his military days, but this looked different. This looked personal and angry. Debris scattered around the wreck in a wide field, pieces of metal and equipment spinning slowly in the void. Jake activated his communication system and tried to raise the ship, but only static answered him. According to his computer, the vessel was the Scientific Explorer, registered to the Lycan Science Council. It should have had a crew of 12. All werewolf scientists working on some kind of classified research project. He knew he should report the wreck to the authorities and continue on his way. Getting involved with alien politics was never a good idea for an independent freight pilot, but something made him pause. Maybe it was his old military training, or maybe it was just basic human decency, but he found himself moving closer to the destroyed ship. The cargo bay of the Scientific Explorer had been blown open, and most of the research equipment was either destroyed or floating free in space. Jake carefully maneuvered his ship alongside the wreck and extended his docking tube to what remained of the airlock. His atmospheric sensors showed that parts of the ship still held breathable air. Jake put on his environment suit and grabbed his emergency medical kit before entering the destroyed vessel. The corridors were dark and twisted, filled with the smell of burned electronics and something else he did not want to think about. Emergency lighting flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the walls. He found the crew quarters first. The bodies of the Lycan scientists floated in the zero gravity, their faces frozen in expressions of fear and pain. Jake had seen death before, but this felt wrong. These were researchers, not soldiers. They had been killed while trying to run or hide. As he moved deeper into the ship, Jake heard something that made him stop breathing. A soft whimpering sound was coming from what looked like a storage compartment. He followed the sound and found a small access panel that had been sealed from the inside. Jake carefully opened the panel and found a young werewolf girl curled up inside, barely alive and shaking with fear. She could not have been more than 12 years old in human years, though Jake knew that aging worked differently for Lycans. Her dark fur was matted with blood, and her amber eyes were wide with terror. The girl tried to back away from him when she saw his human face, but there was nowhere to go in the small space. Jake slowly removed his helmet and held out his hands to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said in the calmest voice he could manage. "I'm here to help you." The girl stared at him for a long moment, then whispered something in the Lycan language that Jake did not understand. He activated his translation device and heard her words converted to English. "Are you going to kill me too?" Jake felt his heart break a little. "No, little one. I'm going to get you out of here and make sure you're safe." The girl studied his face with intelligent eyes that seemed far too old for someone so young. After what felt like forever, she slowly reached out and took his offered hand. Jake carefully helped her out of the compartment and saw that she was injured, but not critically. "What's your name?" he asked as he began checking her wounds. "Luna," she whispered. "My father was Dr. Marcus Gray, the lead researcher on this ship. Jake recognized the name from the crew manifest he had quickly scanned. Dr. Gray had been a famous lichen scientist known for his work in genetics and cross-species medical research. If this was his daughter, then Luna was much more important than just another survivor. "Can you tell me what happened here, Luna?" The girl's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. "Bad people came. They wanted my father's research. When he would not give it to them, they started killing everyone. My father hid me in the storage compartment and told me to stay hidden no matter what I heard." Jake felt anger building in his chest. Whoever had done this had murdered an entire crew of scientists for their research. He looked around at the destroyed laboratory equipment and realized that the attackers had been looking for something specific. "Do you know what research your father was working on?" Luna nodded slowly. "He was trying to help different species understand each other better. He said humans and lichens could learn from each other and become stronger together." Jake helped Luna to her feet and began leading her back toward his ship. She was weak from hiding in the storage compartment for what must have been days, but she walked with dignity and courage that impressed him. As they reached the docking tube, Luna stopped and looked back at the ruined ship. "My father said that if anything ever happened to him, I should find a human who would help me. He said humans were good at protecting people who needed help." Jake looked down at the brave little girl who had just lost everything and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "Well, Luna, it looks like you found one. You're coming with me, and I promise I'll keep you safe." Luna looked up at him with those intelligent amber eyes and said something that surprised him. "Thank you, Alpha." Jake did not understand the significance of the word at the time, but he would learn that in lichen culture, calling someone Alpha meant accepting them as your pack leader and protector. As he helped Luna aboard the Ranger's Dream and set course for the nearest colony, Jake had no idea that he had just become responsible for one of the most important young beings in the galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since Jake found Luna in the wreckage of her father's ship. During the journey to New Denver Colony, he had watched the traumatized girl slowly begin to trust him. She was incredibly smart, picking up basic English phrases within days and showing an understanding of ship operations that amazed him. Luna had also started calling him Alpha more often, which his translation device told him was a sign of deep respect and loyalty among LYCANS. Jake had contacted his old friend Dr. Amy Carter before arriving at the colony. Amy was a xenobiologist who specialized in treating injuries across different species. She had agreed to help Luna without asking too many questions, something Jake appreciated more than he could say. The Ranger's Dream docked at New Denver Colony's main port just after sunrise. The colony was one of the newer human settlements, built on a planet with breathable air and decent weather. Jake had chosen it because it was far from the major shipping lanes and had a reputation for not asking uncomfortable questions about passengers or cargo. Dr. Carter met them at the medical facility, a small but well-equipped building near the colony's center. She was a woman in her 40s, with kind eyes and gentle hands that immediately put Luna at ease. Amy examined Luna's injuries, which were healing well, thanks to the natural lichen ability to recover quickly from wounds. "She's remarkable," Amy told Jake privately while Luna rested in one of the medical beds. "Her intelligence levels are off the charts, and she seems to have an almost supernatural ability to read people and situations. I've never seen anything like it in any species." Jake nodded. He had noticed the same things during their journey. Luna could tell when he was worried before he even realized it himself, and she had an uncanny ability to predict what he was going to do next. It was like she could read his mind sometimes. "There's something else," Amy continued. "I ran some genetic scans to make sure she was healing properly. Her DNA contains some unusual markers that I've never seen before. It's like someone modified her genetic structure, but did it so skillfully that it looks completely natural. Before Jake could ask what that meant, alarms began blaring throughout the medical facility. The colony's emergency broadcast system crackled to life, announcing that unidentified ships had entered the system and were approaching the planet. Luna sat up in her bed, her amber eyes suddenly alert and focused. "They found us, Alpha. The bad people who killed my family are here." Jake felt his blood run cold. He had hoped that finding Luna in the wreckage was just luck, but now he realized that her survival had not gone unnoticed. Someone had been tracking them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ben Hayes, the colony's security chief, burst into the medical facility. He was a big man with military bearing who had served with Jake years ago during the border wars. "Jake, we've got problems. 5 ships just dropped out of hyperspace, and they're not responding to our communication attempts. My sensors are picking up weapon signatures that could level this entire colony." Through the medical facility's windows, Jake could see the ships descending through the atmosphere. They were sleek and black, designed for stealth and speed rather than cargo or exploration. These were the ships of professional killers. "We need to evacuate Luna," Jake said, but the girl shook her head. "It will not work, Alpha. They have been tracking us somehow, and they will follow wherever we go. The only way to stop them is to fight them here." Ben looked at Luna with surprise. "The kid might be right. If we run, they'll just hunt us down in space, where we have even less chance of defending ourselves. At least here we have the colony's defensive systems." Jake did not like the idea of putting Luna in danger, but he also knew she was probably right. The people who had destroyed her father's ship would not give up easily, and running would only delay the inevitable. The first attack came without warning. Explosions rocked the medical facility as the assassins' ships opened fire on the colony's outer defenses. Jake grabbed Luna and pulled her away from the windows, just as the glass shattered from the shock waves. "They're not trying to destroy the colony," Ben said, studying his tactical display. "They're targeting specific buildings, trying to drive us toward the center of town. It's like they're hurting us somewhere." Luna closed her eyes and tilted her head, as if listening to something only she could hear. "There are 12 of them on the ground now, Alpha. They split into 3 groups and are moving toward this building from different directions. The leader is a vegan male with cybernetic implants. He smells like death and anger." Jake stared at her. "How can you possibly know that?" "I can hear them talking to each other through their communication devices. My hearing is much better than yours, and I have been learning to understand many different languages during our journey." Dr. Carter looked amazed. "That's impossible. The range on those communication devices is limited, and they should be encrypted." "Not impossible for her," Luna said simply. "My father's research changed me in ways that even he did not fully understand." Before anyone could ask what she meant, the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. Through the facility's communication system, a cold voice spoke in perfect English. "Captain Morrison, we know you are in there with the girl. My name is Crix, and I represent certain parties who have a strong interest in recovering stolen property. Send out the girl, and we will allow the rest of you to live." Jake grabbed the communication device. "The girl isn't property, and she's under my protection. If you want her, you'll have to go through me." Crix's laughter echoed through the speakers. "How very human of you, Captain. Always thinking you can solve problems with courage and determination. We shall see how well that serves you against professional killers." The attack began immediately. Jake, Ben, and several colony security officers took positions around the medical facility while Dr. Carter tried to find a safe place for Luna to hide. But Luna refused to hide. "I can help, Alpha. I know how they think and how they move. Trust me." Jake looked into her intelligent amber eyes and made another decision that would change everything. What do you need me to do? Luna smiled, for the first time since he had found her. Just follow my lead and do exactly what I tell you to do. We are a pack now, and packs hunt together. As the assassins closed in on the medical facility, Jake realized that he was about to learn just how special Luna really was. The traumatized little girl he had rescued was becoming something else entirely, something that could match the deadly professionals hunting them. He just hoped they would both survive long enough to find out what that something was. The battle at New Denver Colony had lasted 6 hours, but it felt like days to Jake. When the smoke finally cleared, 3 of Crix's assassins were dead, and the others had retreated to their ships. Luna had been incredible during the fight, somehow knowing exactly where the attackers would appear and how they would move. She had saved Dr. Carter's life by detecting a cloaked assassin that even the colony's sensors had missed. Jake knew this was far from over. As Crix's ships disappeared into hyperspace, the vegan leader had sent one final message. This is not finished, human. The girl has something that belongs to us, and we will have it. 2 days later, Jake found himself in a secure communication booth, talking to his old military commander, Lisa Park. Lisa now ran a special operations unit that dealt with problems between different species, the kind of problems that regular law enforcement could not handle. You've stepped into something big, Jake, Lisa said, her image flickering slightly on the encrypted channel. I've been looking into this shadow syndicate that attacked you. They're not just criminals. They're a multi-species organization that trades in stolen technology and information. If they want the girl, it's because she has access to something extremely valuable. Jake glanced over at Luna, who was sitting quietly in the corner of the room. Since the battle, she had been different, more confident and alert. She seemed to be constantly listening to things that no one else could hear. Luna, can you tell Commander Park what you told me about your father's research? Luna looked up with those intelligent amber eyes that never seemed to miss anything. My father was working on something he called genetic memory storage. He found a way to encode information directly into lichen DNA, so it could be passed down through generations without being lost or stolen. Lisa leaned forward on the screen. Are you saying he hid research data in your genetic code? Not just research data, Luna said quietly. Everything. His entire life's work on cross-species genetics, medical breakthroughs that could help millions of beings, and also some things that could be very dangerous if used by the wrong people. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of dangerous things? Luna was quiet for a moment, then looked directly at him. Ways to make different species stronger by combining their best traits. My father was trying to create medical treatments, but the same techniques could be used to make super soldiers or weapons. Lisa cursed softly. That explains why the Shadow Syndicate wants her so badly. That kind of information would be worth billions on the black market. There's more, Luna continued. The information isn't just stored in my DNA. It's locked with a biological key that only activates when I'm in extreme danger or when I choose to access it. My father designed it that way to protect me. Jake realized that Luna had been holding back during their conversations. She knew much more about her father's work than she had let on, probably trying to protect him from getting involved in something dangerous. Luna, why didn't you tell me this before? Because I was not sure I could trust you completely, Alpha. But during the battle, when you chose to fight beside me instead of running away, I knew you were truly my pack leader. Lisa made a decision. Jake, I'm sending one of my best operatives to help you. His name is Kevin Blake, and he specializes in protecting high-value targets. But I have to warn you, the Shadow Syndicate has connections throughout the Federation. They might have people working in government offices, military units, even law enforcement. How do we know who to trust? Jake asked. Luna spoke up before. Lisa could answer. I can tell, Alpha. I can hear the lies in people's voices and smell their emotions. During the battle, I could sense which colony security officers were genuinely trying to help and which ones were afraid. Jake stared at her. Luna's abilities seemed to grow stronger every day, like she was becoming something more than just a normal Lycan child. 2 days later, Sergeant Kevin Blake arrived at New Denver Colony. He was a quiet man in his 30s with sharp eyes and the kind of calm confidence that came from years of dangerous work. Jake liked him immediately, and more importantly, Luna seemed to approve of him as well. "I've been briefing myself on your situation," Kevin said, as they sat in the secure meeting room at the colony's security center. "The Shadow Syndicate isn't going to give up, and they're probably calling in reinforcements right now. We need to go on the offensive before they can organize a larger attack." Luna nodded in agreement. "They will keep hunting me until they get what they want or until they are stopped permanently. Running and hiding will only delay the inevitable." Jake looked at the young girl who had become so important to him over the past few weeks. "What do you think we should do?" "I need to access more of my genetic memory to understand exactly what my father hid and why it's so valuable. But doing that is dangerous. It could change me in ways we don't understand." Kevin studied Luna carefully. "What kind of changes?" "My father's research was about combining the best traits of different species. If I access the stored information, some of those genetic modifications might activate in my own body. I could become stronger, faster, smarter, but I might also become something that is no longer fully Lycan." Jake felt his protective instincts flare up. "Then we won't do it. There has to be another way." Luna looked at him with those amber eyes that seemed to see right through him. "Alpha, you saved my life when you could have just reported the wreckage and continued on your way. You chose to protect me when it would have been safer to turn me over to the authorities. Now I need to choose to protect others, even if it means risking myself." "She's right," Kevin said quietly. "The information in her genetic memory could help millions of people, but only if we can keep it away from the Shadow Syndicate." Jake realized that Luna was no longer the frightened child he had found in the wreckage of her father's ship. She was becoming a young leader who understood the weight of responsibility and was willing to accept it. "If we're going to do this, we do it together," Jake said finally. "You're not facing this alone." Luna smiled, and for a moment she looked like the child she should have been allowed to be. "That is what pact means, Alpha. We face everything together." Over the next several days, they began planning their next move. Luna would attempt to access more of her genetic memory, but only in a controlled environment where they could monitor her condition. Kevin would coordinate with trusted contacts in the Federation military, while Jake would use his knowledge of shipping routes and colony defenses to identify likely targets for the next Shadow Syndicate attack. But as they prepared for what was coming, Jake could see that Luna was changing. Her senses were becoming even sharper. Her intelligence was growing at an alarming rate. And sometimes when she looked at him, he could swear she was seeing possibilities and strategies that were far beyond what any child should understand. Whatever Dr. Gray had done to his daughter, it was awakening something inside her that could either save the galaxy or change it forever. Jake just hoped they would be ready for whatever Luna was becoming. The mining planet Kepler 442b was exactly the kind of place where someone would hide a secret laboratory. The planet's surface was covered in violent storms that could tear apart unshielded ships, and the constant electromagnetic interference made it nearly impossible to scan from orbit. Luna had accessed enough of her genetic memory to give them the coordinates, but she had paid a price for that information. Jake watched Luna as she studied the tactical display in the Ranger's Dreams cargo hold. Over the past week, she had grown. Taller and stronger, her amber eyes now seemed to glow with their own light, and her movements had become impossibly graceful and precise. The genetic modifications her father had hidden in her DNA were definitely activating, changing her into something that was no longer entirely Lycan. The laboratory is built into the side of Mount Kronos, Luna said, pointing to a massive peak that rose above the storm clouds. My father chose that location because the mountain's natural ore deposits would block most scanning attempts, and the elevation puts it above the worst of the electrical storms. Kevin Blake studied the satellite. Images they had managed to capture during brief breaks in the storm activity. It looks like the Shadow Syndicate found it before us. I'm counting at least 6 ships on the ground near the mountain, and thermal imaging shows significant activity around what must be the laboratory entrance. Jake felt frustrated. They had traveled across half the galaxy to reach Kepler 442b, only to discover that their enemies had beaten them there. How did they find it so quickly? Luna closed her eyes and tilted her head in that way she did when she was listening to things beyond normal hearing range. They have someone with them. Who knows about my father's work? I can hear them talking about genetic locks and memory storage. They're trying to break into the laboratory security systems. Can they do it without you? Kevin asked. Eventually, yes. My father was brilliant, but he was also trusting. He never imagined that people would torture and kill to get his research. The security systems are designed to keep out thieves and accidents, not professional criminals with unlimited resources. Jake made a decision. Then we go in now, before they can finish breaking through his defenses. Luna, how much more of your genetic memory can you access without risking permanent damage? Luna looked at him with those glowing amber eyes, and Jake could see something ancient and powerful stirring behind them. Enough, Alpha, more than enough. The plan they developed was risky but simple. The electromagnetic storms that protected the planet would also provide cover for their approach. Luna's enhanced senses would guide them through the worst of the interference, while Kevin's military training would help them deal with the Shadow Syndicate forces guarding the laboratory dot as they descended through Kepler 442b's chaotic atmosphere. Jake found himself amazed by Luna's abilities. She seemed to know exactly when lightning would strike and where the worst turbulence would hit. Her directions were so precise that they were able to land the Ranger's dream in a hidden canyon less than 2 miles from Mount Kronos. There are 23 of them, Luna said, as they prepared their equipment for the assault on the laboratory. Crix is here, along with 5 other vegan mercenaries, 8 humans who smell like fear and desperation, 6 Krillians who have been enhanced with combat drugs, and 3 others whose species I do not recognize. Jake stared at her. You can tell all that from here? The wind carries their sense, Alpha, and I can hear their communication devices even through their encryption. They are arguing about how to access the deepest levels of the laboratory without triggering the self-destruct systems my father installed. Kevin checked his weapons one final time. Self-destruct systems? Luna nodded. My father knew that his research could be dangerous in the wrong hands. If someone tries to steal the information without using the proper genetic keys, the entire laboratory will be destroyed. As they made their way up the treacherous slopes of Mount Kronos, Jake realized that Luna was no longer the child he had rescued from the wreckage of her father's ship. She moved through the dangerous terrain like she had been born to it, her enhanced senses allowing her to find safe paths through areas that would have been impossible for normal beings to navigate. The laboratory entrance was hidden behind a waterfall that cascaded down the mountain's north face. Through the mist and spray, Jake could see the Shadow Syndicate ships parked on a natural shelf of stone, their crews working frantically to break through Dr. Gray's security measures. They're close to breaking through the outer defenses, Luna whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the waterfall. Once they get inside, they'll start looking for the genetic memory storage devices. If they find them, they can torture the information out of me later. Jake felt his protective instincts surge. That's not going to happen. Luna looked at him with something that might have been pride. No, Alpha, it is not, because we are going to stop them first. The battle began when Kevin took out the perimeter guards with silent precision. Jake had seen Special Forces operators work before, but Kevin moved like a shadow, eliminating threats without alerting the main group. Luna's role was to coordinate their movements and warn them of approaching enemies. But when they reached the laboratory's main entrance, everything changed. Crix had been waiting for them with a squad of enhanced Krillian soldiers. These were not the normal criminals Jake had fought at New Denver Colony. These were professional killers who had been modified with illegal genetic enhancements that made them faster, stronger, and more ruthless than any natural being. Captain Morrison, Crix said, his cybernetic implants glowing red in the dim light of the laboratory entrance. How predictable of you to come rushing to the rescue. And you brought the girl, just as I hoped you would. Jake raised his weapon, but Luna stepped forward before he could fire. You want my father's research, she said, her voice carrying a strange harmonic quality that seemed to resonate through the stone walls around them. But you don't understand what you're asking for. Crix laughed. I understand perfectly, little. Volf, your father's genetic modifications are worth billions to the right buyers. Military organizations across the galaxy would pay any price for soldiers with the combined strengths of multiple species. Luna's amber eyes began to glow brighter, and Jake could feel something changing in the air around them. My father didn't create weapons. He created something much more dangerous. What could be more dangerous than the perfect soldier? Luna smiled, and her teeth had become noticeably sharper. The perfect hunter. What happened next would stay with Jake for the rest of his life. Luna moved faster than his eyes could follow, crossing the distance between herself and the nearest Krillian soldier in less than a heartbeat. Her enhanced strength allowed her to tear through their combat armor like it was made of paper. Wow. Her tactical intelligence let her coordinate with Kevin to eliminate threats in perfect synchronization. But it was more than just physical enhancement. Luna seemed to know what her enemies would do before they did it themselves, predicting their movements and countering their strategies with an ease that bordered on supernatural. Within minutes, half of Crix's force was down, and the survivors were retreating deeper into the laboratory. Jake followed Luna and Kevin as they pursued the remaining Shadow Syndicate forces through corridors lined with advanced scientific equipment. The main laboratory is just ahead, Luna said, her voice now carrying undertones that sounded more like a predator than a child. That's where my father stored the most important research, and that's where Crix will make his final stand. Jake looked at Luna and realized that whatever she was becoming, it was something the galaxy had never seen before. Her father's research hadn't just hidden information in her genetic code. It had created a new kind of being entirely. As they prepared for the final confrontation with Crix, Jake found himself wondering if they were saving Luna's father's research, or if they were about to unleash something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The main laboratory was a vast chamber carved directly into the heart of Mount Kronos. Advanced scientific equipment lined the walls, much of it still active and humming with power despite years of abandonment. In the center of the room stood a massive computer system that Jake recognized as a genetic memory storage device, the same type that held all of Dr. Gray's research within Luna's DNA. Crix had taken position behind the central console with his remaining forces, using Dr. Carter as a human shield. Jake felt his blood run cold when he saw his friend being held at gunpoint by the vegan mercenary. Amy had somehow followed them to Kepler 442b, probably trying to help, and had been captured by the Shadow Syndicate. How touching, Crix said, his cybernetic implants casting red light across Amy's terrified face. The human pack comes together to protect their own. But you're too late, Captain Morrison. I've already accessed the outer layers of the genetic storage system. Soon I'll have everything I need. Luna stepped forward, her amber eyes now glowing so brightly that they cast their own golden light in the dim laboratory. You have accessed nothing, Crix. My father was much cleverer than you realize. The girl speaks truth, said a familiar voice, and Jake spun around to see a holographic projection of Dr. Marcus Gray materializing near the central console. I programmed this message to activate when Luna entered the laboratory under conditions of extreme stress. Crix snarled and raised his weapon toward the hologram, but the image of Luna's father continued speaking calmly. My daughter, if you are seeing this, then the research I hid within your genetic code has begun to awaken. You now face the same choice I faced when I realized what my work could become. You can preserve the medical applications that will help millions of beings across the galaxy, or you can destroy everything to prevent it from being used as a weapon. Luna moved closer to the central console, her enhanced senses clearly detecting things that Jake could not see or hear. Father hid more than just research data in my DNA. He created a biological key that would allow me to either unlock the beneficial applications or trigger a complete destruction of all the information. Enough talk, Crix growled, pressing his weapon against Dr. Carter's head. Transfer the genetic data to my storage devices, or the doctor dies. Jake started to move forward, but Luna held up a hand to stop him. Wait, Alpha, there is something. You need to understand before I make my choice. She turned to face Jake, and he was shocked by what he saw in her glowing eyes. There was wisdom there that seemed far older than her years, mixed with a sadness that broke his heart. The genetic modifications my father gave me are not permanent. If I choose to preserve his research and transfer it safely to the Federation Medical Council, the enhancements will fade from my body within a few days. I will become a normal lichen child again. Jake felt confusion and concern. What's wrong with that? Because if I choose to destroy the research completely, the modifications will become permanent. I will keep all the enhanced abilities, but I will also carry the responsibility of being the only being in the galaxy with access to my father's knowledge. Kevin, who had been positioning himself for a clear shot at Crix, paused. You're saying you have to choose between helping millions of people and keeping the power to protect yourself? Luna nodded. That is exactly what I am saying. My father designed it this way because he knew that ultimate power should require ultimate sacrifice. Crix was growing impatient. I don't care about your philosophical dilemmas, girl. Transfer the data now, or people start dying. But Luna was no longer paying attention to the vegan mercenary. She was looking directly at Jake with those glowing amber eyes. What would you do, Alpha? If you had to choose between helping others and protecting yourself, which would you pick? Jake thought about everything that had happened since he found Luna in the wreckage of her father's ship. He had chosen to rescue her when it would have been safer to keep flying. He had chosen to fight beside her when it would have been easier to run. Every decision he had made had been about protecting others rather than protecting himself. You already know what I would choose, Luna. The same thing I've been choosing since the day I found you. Luna smiled, and for a moment she looked like the child she should have been allowed to be. That is why you are my Alpha. You always choose to help others, even when it costs you. She turned back to the central console and began entering commands into the genetic storage system. The equipment around the laboratory began to hum with increased power, and holographic displays showed complex genetic sequences flowing across the screens. What are you doing? Crix demanded. I am making my choice, Luna said calmly. I am transferring all the beneficial medical applications of my father's research to the Federation Medical Council, where they can be used to help people across the galaxy. Jake felt relief wash over him, but Luna was not finished. And I'm permanently deleting all the military applications so they can never be used to create weapons or super soldiers. The laboratory systems began flashing warning lights as massive amounts of data were processed and transmitted. Jake could see the frustration and rage building in Crix's cybernetic features as he realized that his prize was slipping away. "You're destroying billions of credits worth of information," the vegan snarled. "I am protecting the galaxy from my father's greatest mistake," Luna replied. "He should never have created the possibility of turning his medical research into weapons." Crix raised his weapon to fire at Luna, but Jake was already moving. His shot took the mercenary in the shoulder, spinning him away from Dr. Carter and giving Kevin a clear line of fire. The remaining Shadow Syndicate forces were eliminated within seconds by the combined efforts of Jake, Kevin, and Luna's tactical coordination. As the smoke cleared, Luna collapsed next to the central console. Jake rushed to her side, afraid that accessing so much genetic information had hurt her, but she was smiling weakly. "It is done, Alpha. The beneficial research is safely transferred to people who will use it to help others, and the dangerous applications are destroyed forever." Jake helped her sit up, and he could already see that her amber eyes were returning to their normal color. "Are you okay? I will be. The genetic modifications are already fading from my system. In a few days, I will be a normal lichen child again, with normal abilities and a normal lifespan." Dr. Carter, freed from her captors, rushed over to examine Luna. "Are you sure you made the right choice? You could have kept those enhanced abilities." Luna looked up at Jake with eyes that were now just the regular amber of a young lichen. "I made the choice my Alpha would have made. I chose to help others instead of helping myself." 6 months later, Jake found himself in Commander Lisa Park's office, receiving a formal commendation for his role in preventing the Shadow Syndicate from acquiring dangerous genetic research. Luna sat beside him, looking like any other 12-year-old. Lichen child, except for the intelligence that still sparkled in her amber eyes. "The Federation Medical Council has already begun developing treatments based on Dr. Gray's research," Lisa said. "Early estimates suggest that millions of beings across dozens of species will benefit from the medical breakthroughs you helped preserve." Jake looked down at Luna, who was quietly reading an advanced physics textbook that would have challenged most college students. "What happens now?" "Now you both have a choice," Lisa said. "I'm authorized to offer you both positions in my Special Operations Unit. The galaxy has noticed this unusual partnership between a human and a lichen, and there are other situations that could benefit from your unique approach to problem solving." Luna looked up from her book and smiled at Jake. "What do you think? Alpha, are you ready for our next adventure?" Jake realized that while Luna might have given up her enhanced physical abilities, she had kept the most important enhancement of all, her incredible intelligence and tactical thinking. She was still the remarkable being he had found in that wrecked ship, just in a different package. "I think we make a pretty good team," he said, ruffling her hair gently. "What's our first assignment?" Lisa handed them a datapad with mission details. "There's a situation developing in the Outer Rim colonies. Pirates have been attacking trade ships, but their tactics suggest they have inside information about Federation shipping schedules. We need someone who can think outside normal parameters to figure out how they're getting their intelligence." Luna studied the mission briefing for exactly 30 seconds and looked up with a grin that reminded Jake of her enhanced days. "I already have 3 theories about how they're doing it, Alpha. This should be fun." As they left Lisa's office to prepare for their new mission, Jake reflected on everything that had changed since that day he found Luna in the wreckage. She still called him Alpha, not out of submission, but out of respect for someone who had taught her that true strength came from protecting others rather than protecting yourself. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous team was not the one with the most enhancements or the biggest weapons, but the one with the strongest bond and the willingness to sacrifice for each other. Jake and Luna were ready to show them exactly what that meant.